Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm excited to be here today. It is cold in Colorado, and we have three humans that are in Colorado with me. So we're all in this together, but we're about to heat it up with this conversation and positive vibrations because we have Fit Fam in the house, which are one of my favorite categories. Anytime it's someone doing fitness and we've become friends over the years, they're mission-driven humans doing the darn thing. So I have two varsity rock stars. I'm going to welcome to the mic. They are the founder and a leader within Lions Pride Fitness. And Lions Pride Fitness is a CrossFit community for those in and returning from incarceration. With over 5 years experience in building CrossFit programs inside prison, we want to continue that community success outside. Their mission is we exist to bring the full person wellness of CrossFit combined with peer and community mentorship to the justice system involved, JSI population. So this is really cool. These guys are out there on the front lines. We've got Arron Brill. He's a former police officer, and now he's the president of Lions Pride Fitness. And we have got his partner, Manny Menendez. He is the leader, and he sounds like he's the leader in between the veteran. He works on the board of Lions Pride Fitness. I'm going to let them do their full bio, but these guys are the front lines of doing this program. They've built it from the ground up. So without further ado, why don't you guys give us a quick intro on yourselves and how we got into this?
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks, Kristen, for having us on here today. Said known you for years and watched you grow up with the TNT podcast. So that's been fun to watch. It's still rock the shirt at workouts and stuff. So fun to be on it. Arron Brill, 25-year veteran of law enforcement. I did the last 22 years were in Denver, police academy instructor, which is how I got into CrossFit. Which that path led me, interestingly, into prison to start another program, not this one, but another one that was purely for incarcerated people. It started off with me working out with some guys. A son of a friend was incarcerated and wanted to turn himself around and improve the community inside prisons. Through CrossFit, he had seen enough about it to kind of recognize what that looked like. So went in, worked out with the guys, met them, worked out with them. And then we just started going. We had no intention of turning it into what it turned into, but that program is called Redemption Road Fitness Foundation, Redemption Road CrossFit, and it grew to be, and it's still going, and still a great program. We just split off to do similar but different work. That thing grew to be had five CrossFit affiliates inside of prisons. I think they've grown even more since I left at the end of 2021. But we saw a need to work in the reintegration space, people getting out of prison. The Insight program was great. Then we had, if we had time, I can tell a story of kind of what broke my heart and built it towards doing this particular work. So end of 2021, half the board, 5 of us left to start Lions Pride Fitness, to be more specialized on work in the reintegration space. We still help with some CrossFit programs behind bars, but mostly we're working into reintegration, halfway houses and transitional housing, and guys that are fully released, whatever, that just need or want to continue or just get introduced into CrossFit. It's done inside and in the reintegration space. What it does at every CrossFit gym around the world is build community and build relationships and healthy lifestyles, and which starts to get into your mental health and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we got going. I retired from law enforcement in February of last year, 22, felt like 2 or 3 years combined. But yeah, and have a little more bandwidth to pursue this work now. And then Manny was in our program at Sterling, and I'll let him kind of talk about his role with us.
Yeah, so I'm Manny Menendez, a U.S. Army veteran. Did 7 years in the Army, got retired out for some injuries from deployments. And then I kind of went down a path where I was kind of looking for those military ways again, right? That structure, that discipline, that camaraderie. I kind of lost that, right? And got out, got my bachelor's degree, and unfortunately got into a little trouble. I was trying to find that adrenaline in all the wrong places. So I have some lived experience. I did almost 5 years in Sterling Correctional Facility, and then some time obviously in county jail. Won my appeals, and I was recently released here the summer of 2022. And I've just been on fire for this work. I love what we do through CrossFit. Just seeing what it does in that space inside, and how it breaks a lot of those barriers that are deep rooted in that community for so long, and it breaks a lot of those barriers. And it's a really special thing to watch men really break those barriers and have almost therapy through these workouts. And I'd say it saved my life. It gave me a lot of structure and discipline, camaraderie, and like Arron said, just that connection again. And that's why I'm really passionate about doing a lot of this work. I'm a CFL1 trainer, and I'm the military and VA vet rep for Lions Pride Fitness, and we also run parallel with a program that me and my wife help bring here to the prison system called Veterans Healing Veterans. And what it is a narration-based therapy program for veterans. We advocate for the almost 200,000 incarcerated veterans, and we run this program parallel with that because it's a series of writing prompts. It's narration-based therapy where we're helping guys reprocess a lot of their traumas, so it doesn't impact their lives in a negative manner like it did a lot of times, ending them up in these places. So we run it. We have them do a writing prompt, and usually afterwards we're doing some kind of CrossFit workout or yoga session afterwards to just have that healthy outlet and that release, and really start kind of programming and condition those healthy outlets at an early phase while they're in prison, because it just translates so beautifully out here if you just continue that structure and that discipline, and it's so important.
I love it. Well, it's pretty incredible how I don't know if you guys are religious or spiritual or whatever, however we label it, but it's funny how the path we weave kind of leads us without us even knowing onto the right things. Like, talk about being incarcerated. I mean, had that not happened, do you feel like you would be where you are today?
Oh no, that's what I tell people. I think it's a blessing. I really found my faith, my fitness, my family again, and it's like I tell people, I went through the mess and now I had the message. I went through the test and now I had the testimony, and it's such a huge blessing. Like I said, I won my appeal, so that time didn't go wasted. It's very invaluable that I finally found my mission and my purpose, and I'm walking in my path exactly like you said. It took some bumps and bruises, but it's a huge blessing now that we're on that solid road.
I'm in it. Yeah, it's crazy. So I always tell like my young people when I can, I'm like, because everyone's like, I'm going to college here and I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, okay, well, call me in 5 years when you let me know how your perfect plan shook out. And the beauty, I think, is kind of the mess. It's really hard when you're in the thick of it, and I certainly wouldn't compare anyone's journey to my own or vice versa. Like everyone's kind of walking their own path, but it's just kind of amazing that we do have that one thing in common where the mess does really provide the message. And it sometimes I always say it takes my varsity humans the longest, because we'll fix it, we'll try harder, we'll train more, we'll eat different, we will do it our way until it fully breaks us down, and then you see the light, and then there's kind of like this breakthrough. But I am curious. So we kind of, Arron, you're coming off of law enforcement. Manny, you're coming out of the military, and I know it sounds like you kind of had something leading you towards this, but Arron, what really inspired you to be like, okay, I think this can be a thing. I see how much CrossFit specifically has impacted my life. What was the transition of bringing that into, the prison or the jail system? Because CrossFit is kind of still it's more popular now, but it's still kind of a unique training, and it gets a lot of rap about being like a cult. Like, how did you get people that maybe weren't exposed to it to embrace such a thing?
Yeah. So in 2017, that's when I first went into Lyman prison. I said I didn't have a plan for all this. A police officer friend of mine's son was incarcerated. And Kevin, my cop buddy, just reached out saying, hey, my son has really turned himself around. Here's a bunch of paperwork from his caseworker. And he knows what CrossFit can do community-wise. Would you be willing to talk to him? And, I mean, talk about spirituality. I'm a Christian. This isn't a faith-based program, but we're both faith-based people. And there's some political reasons why it's not faith-based per se. But we do try to model that life. But I had been questioning probably for a month, 6 weeks on why I was where I was. I had been a police academy instructor for the previous 8 years and got transferred out of that job, went back to the streets. During that, going back even farther, when I went to the academy as an instructor, I was a kind of the typical cop, big arm, little leg, cop, looked decent in the uniform, stretched the sleeves and stuff. But if you could run more than a block, you probably got away from me. I had to call my buddies. But I went into the academy, and the captain, who was not a fitness guy, said, "Oh, you're a big guy, and the guy that just left is the fitness guy. So you're going to be in charge of fitness. Apparently, we do love CrossFit, so go learn about that." And that was 2008. So
Wow.
you talk about where it was then. There
Yeah.
was 5 CrossFit gyms in Denver.
That's when I
4.
started. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally different scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching you back in the games. But,
I have the MRIs to prove it. Yeah.
yeah. So I went to the level 1, made the mistake of raising my hand when they said, "Do we have any first responders or military?" I'm like, "Yeah, right here." And, gave them some of that. And so first lunch break, I didn't know anything about it. I had a buddy, Dan Andrews. I think you know Dan.
Oh yeah.
From Front Range days. I saw him doing some CrossFit and getting small, flipping. I saw his videos flipping tires and stuff. I was like, that looks easy, no big deal. Went to the level 1, was learning a lot that first half a day, and already impressed. And they said, "We're gonna do this workout. It's called Fran. Do 95-pound thrusters and all this stuff. If you need to scale, go over there." And I was like, 95 pounds? I curl 95 pounds. It's not a big deal. So I didn't go over there, as I should have, and scale with a 10-minute time cap. So at the 10-minute, 9-minute, 9.5 minutes, everyone's done except for me and the other cop. And everyone's going, "Come on, officer, you can do it. You can, come on." And I was like, "Who are you people? What is happening here?" When I didn't finish, I think it was in the round of 9, if I remember right. Just gasping on the floor and thinking, I need more of this, whatever this just was. Because all these people could do it, and I hope they all seem to be good people, so that's nice. But I need some more of this, because I thought I was fairly fit, and I'm apparently not. So all that to say, that gets me into CrossFit. I go try out my new skills on a bunch of recruits and in-service cops, and make my mistakes in coaching and learning, and then opened a gym in 2009 and ran that for the next 6-7 years until I transferred out of the academy. And that didn't, going back to the street, just didn't work. I wasn't doing it to make money, so I had myself and a couple of guys that helped me coach, but it just wasn't sustainable as a street cop to call my clients and say, "I'm on a homicide, sorry, I can't make it to class," type thing. So had to shut it down. And this is right at the time that I started asking God, like, what was this? Why did I just waste 6, 7, 8 years of my life getting all these skills? I thought that was gonna be my path forever, gym owner, all this stuff. And that's when Kevin reached out about his son, and I was like, "Okay, God, I hear you. Like, either be who I say I am, versus, as his code to help."
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Years and trying to change that stuff. But so I had this opportunity to step up or shut up, stop saying you're just a great person that believes in fitness and all that CrossFit can do, and that you're here to help anybody regardless of their status, or go into prison and meet this guy. So I went in and I met him, and I could see the 4 guys that I met with initially wanted to help change that community. So we just started doing some workouts, and people started looking at us and trying to figure out what we were doing. And the administration started looking, and I asked if I could have a class. They said, "Yeah, sure. You and those 4 guys can have a class." I said, "Can I have 10?" And they said, "Well, 4 guys, only 4 can gather on the yard, or they get dispersed. And in prison, getting dispersed, it's quite often a beanbag round or something from the guy on the roof watching them. And they got reasons for that, and it's valid." So even that, I had to have a class of 10 on the yard was a thing, and I brought a whiteboard and I set it up, and dude on the roof was watching, and I wasn't altogether unhappy that he was watching, because I was a cop in a prison, but I was already feeling safer than that sounds, because of these guys that I was working with. So we had a class, and it went well, and we had another class, and it grew. And I asked if we could maybe have a competition inside, and they said, "Okay, but why and what?" And the inside guys had wanted to do this competition actually to raise money for the staff gym that because they had a better gym at this point than the staff. The staff didn't have hardly anything. So we raised, I think, $2,000 about the staff, some CrossFit stuff and a treadmill because they wanted a treadmill. But at that competition, I brought in, I think, 40 people from outside. And there was probably 30 or 40 correctional staff lined up against the back wall waiting to see how this was going to go, because it was men and women. It wasn't just guys coming in. We brought in some volunteers by that point, and it just happened really organically. CrossFit just did what it does, and then we started asking some questions. We said, well, I can't be here all the time. I was going out a couple of times a week, and it's a 2-hour round trip. So what if we got these guys trained up? So wrote CrossFit headquarters a letter saying, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, and could you maybe send in some trainers for a level 1? And apparently the story goes that it made it to Dave Castro, and he said, where is it? And they said, Colorado. He said, yeah, send them. So they sent a couple of guys, and they went in with just pencils and whiteboard things, couldn't take their computers and all that stuff, and did a level 1. And now there's been several and level 2s inside of prison. So now CrossFit staff regularly going in there and doing these things. So all that to say, I didn't have a plan to introduce this. I just went in to help this small group of guys. And then it grew to be this thing. And it's really magical. It's changing lives. I'm hearing from guys that I've never met how this has changed their lives after they've gotten out. And even inside, I get outreach from guys inside all the time of, hey, I'm at this program. Can you see if I can do some kettlebells or something? And we still do. So yeah. Did I answer the question? I talked a long time. So.
Absolutely. Well, you got that cardio now, so I know once I pull the string, we're gonna go like the rest of us. No, I think that answered it phenomenally well. And I do want to clarify, when the staff came in, were they training any of like the prisoners, if that's the correct terminology, to be level 1, or is it just the other staff that was getting certified to be level 1?
No, it was all the offenders, insiders, residents. I call the guys that in our program, we call them insiders. We got the insiders and outsiders. So yeah, it was all the insiders we had 10 at that first level 1. CrossFit wrote off 2 of those seats, gave us 2 free seats, and we raised all the money ourselves, CrossFit Journal has a couple of articles on that one. Andrea came out and did a great couple of stories on that. And it was interesting reading the comments on social media, because I was a cop and there was this thing, and how was this going to play out now that it was known? And I had a hesitancy to bring it up at the police department, because I get a question of, do you really want to make bigger, stronger, faster criminals as a cop? And it's like, no, I don't. I want to make bigger, stronger, faster humans. Through CrossFit that does all these other amazing things. And they're pretty big and strong and fast anyways. Inside there. They're not the guys that want to be big and strong and fast. They're big and strong and fast. So but yeah, so we just had 10 insiders for that level 1, and it was amazing. Jason McDonald was one of the trainers that came in. He's a UFC fighter. They didn't mess around when they sent their staff. They sent a UFC fighter, and Eric O'Connor, who was at my level 1 way back in the day. Another guy can handle himself pretty well. So they sent in a couple of kind of heavy hitters for that first level 1. But yeah, it was all insiders. And we do have correctional officers that work out right alongside the guys. Dean Williams, the former director of all of Colorado's DOC, who just retired January. He's always had he was the same thing in Alaska, and he liked his staff to work out. He had a running club in Alaska and at CrossFit. He wanted his people working out with the guys inside, because there's got to be a separation there between CO and insider. But if they can see each other as humans, then that eliminates a lot of the other stuff, right? So yeah, we've got COs that just jump into the workout with the guys. We don't have any actual CO level 1s through our program. It's all offender led. There's
cool. Okay.
And our current program as well. That was true of the old one, and that's true of the new one. In our reintegration spaces, it's going to tend to be a mix of civilian-led, outsider-led, and insider. Because if there's no level 1 at the halfway house or transitional housing space, then it'll be us. But if we get somebody passing through, Manny or There's a guy Lane that just got out, these guys passing through these spaces, and then hopefully after two coming back to coach. But yeah, it's led by these guys, and that's a huge piece of it. There's a lot of programs that are outsiders coming in to talk at these guys about how they could do whatever, and they haven't lived that experience. They don't know the struggles of that at that internalized place. I've been in prison now going on 5 years doing this work, and I still wouldn't try to say I know anything about what it's like to live in that place.
Right.
I know what it's like to help run a program and get over administrative hurdles and that kind of thing, but we have it purposely offender-led because these guys know each other. It gives a legitimacy to it, and it's getting them job skills.
Yeah.
CrossFit's not like a thing you can get out and get a 40-hour-a-week job and just be fully sufficient, but it's a thing that you can get out, get in community, and have a part-time job and get your free membership and make some extra money. And I still coach at a gym here in Monument, CrossFit 7070, and my free membership, and a little bit of extra cash for CrossFit shirts and shoes and stuff.
There you go.
So yeah, it's offender-led in all of our trainings. We'll be doing that. Continue to do that.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
This one we are actively in the Denver community. Halfway house on the actual county jail facility. They repurposed some space that wasn't being used for transitional housing, which is a really neat thing. And we go in and we do classes in there. So we're figuring out this new space, but it's exciting again. I become this administrator of this big thing that I didn't want to be. I'm not very smart. I'm moderately strong. I'm a decent coach. Somebody had to be the head, so it was me. But I brought in everybody I could, and I still do. I lean heavily into Manny and the rest of our board. My wife is on our board, and she's way smarter than me, so I look to her for administrative stuff.
Yeah, so much of it is that connections and community. And Manny, I'm really interested to hear, because the community, I always say, like, you show up for the fitness and you stay for the friends, because the community is such amazing humans. Like, the best thing about CrossFit, and I would say it attracts my varsity humans, the people, the hard chargers, the ones that are wanting to level up. And when you go in, it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire, if you're walking out of a tough situation, if you're a mother of four or whatever, it's a complete equalizer. You don't know, everyone's in gym clothes, everyone's got the same workout, even if you're modifying or whatever, we're all sweating and kind of bleeding and complaining about the same stuff. And once you're tired, everything goes away. Like, you don't see anything but the person next to you, and then you're like in that bonding space. So from that, I could totally see how, you're walking out of a situation of incarceration or whatever, and then you can work your way into these other situations in community, and then people can see you as a human before your LinkedIn resume or whatever else. And I can see how opportunity can even open up from that, and the life skills that come just from the discipline and everything else. Manny, I have three younger brothers. One was coming out of the military. One other one played lacrosse in college, like myself. And the one, I'm the oldest. He's the second oldest. He's like, you and Todd need to go do CrossFit. We were like, what the hell is that? Go do it. I looked it up. It was like 50 pull-ups. I was like, oh, hell no. I was like a top 20 D1 athlete. I couldn't do a pull-up. But we went in, and of course, my military brother was like, it's silly, but just go do it. You do this kipping thing, and it's not real, because he had like very military traditional mindset.
Yeah.
But that's how we got into it. So I'm super curious of your experience, how coming from, I can see how the community was a complete draw in the discipline, but how did you feel about CrossFit in general coming from that military mindset?
Well, and I think I just transitioned right into it, to be honest with you, because I think, especially once I had got the education, earning my CFL1, and I understood the different engines and modalities and things like this, I was already, to a certain extent, especially in my military career, hitting a lot of these components, hitting that oxidative state, going for a run. Because I worked a lot with, I was a personal security officer for 2 and 3 and 4-star generals. So I controlled all their air and ground movements, handled all their security, their vehicles, their personnel. And so, working with them, a lot of times they're runners. So, I mean, I've ran a marathon with 3-star generals. So I was already hitting a lot of those different oxidative states. They want to go in and lift, do some heavy lifts. We're hitting those phosphagen, motor. And then we're doing metabolic conditioning, a lot of HIIT training naturally in the military. So I think maybe I wasn't as educated. Once I got my CFL1 and I put all the terminology kind of together, I was already kind of naturally doing a lot of the a lot of the different modalities when I was in the service, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. So
Yeah.
I think really getting the education and understanding the programming I was doing was I was already kind of doing CrossFit, so it was a smooth transition for me. And like you said, I think there were just so many parallels I found in the CrossFit community, but also in prison. I think there's just a lot of parallels to military life, that kind of structure, to prison and CrossFit. So it was really cool for me to kind of experience that on the inside of bringing all that together. And I think you're exactly right. I think it's a ripple effect on how it impacts men's lives, right? Because
Yeah.
now you're dealing with volunteers, you're having to be more social, you're having to have these interactions, and not only that, but I think it just provides so much hope when you see those volunteers come in. Wow, they're here to work out with us, they're here to work out with me. And just remembering that hope, I wanted to provide that. So 2 weeks after I got out of almost a 5-year sentence, I went right back into the prison I was at with my wife. And
Wow.
we met with all the guys and we did some workouts. We ran our veteran group. So it was just a great experience. And you're exactly right. I feel like just taking a holistic approach, CrossFit really contributes greatly to multiple aspects of people's lives.
Well, and I don't want to sound basic in saying this, but if you've ever been around someone coming even out of a tough situation, or maybe doesn't have like this traditional education background of college or whatever, perhaps you've been incarcerated. Sometimes you have to mine the gold, kind of like you're saying. You had the skill set, but it wasn't necessarily labeled in a certain way. Some of this, and I'll say as best I can, criminal activity is very strategic. There's a lot of life skills in strategic partnerships, in, running systems or making sure. I mean, it's not just for these casual humans. Like, some of it's very sophisticated systems, and these are extraordinary business skills. So I think sometimes, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's almost like taking those skills and reposition and restructuring because they're still valuable. What are your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're exactly right. And I think that's why I have such a heart for this, right? Because that's why I went into that part out, because I feel like my military brothers I went overseas with and I served with I'm almost as connected with some of my brothers that I suffered through some of these workouts with. And I established the CrossFit program at Sterling, and we helped start the veteran pro. I'm just as connected with some of these men. So I think you're exactly right. I'm sorry, I got blown up. I have a TBI. Where were we going? What'd you ask?
That's funny. We should have a whole conversation about neuroperformance. That's actually some stuff relating with turmeric and tequila. But just basically how, like, some of these life skills, I think people that don't come from traditional backgrounds, and I love for our younger people, not everyone's just run into college and getting the big bill. They're doing trade schools and some other stuff. But like, I think people discount some of their life skills as they grow up, whether it's considered bad behavior or good behavior.
Yep.
It's just, you sometimes you have to take it and just reposition the perspective, make it
Yep.
legal. But empower people with, like, you're probably starting more ahead than you think. Like, you didn't think you necessarily had all this knowledge, but you actually did. You were living it already. We just kind of had to rebrand it into CrossFit terms, and you were already like 10 steps ahead.
Well, and I think you're exactly right. And I think that's what's exciting for, I have a pretty strong pulse on a lot of the reentry space, and we go inside a lot. And I think you're exactly right. And that's what's encouraging for me, is just seeing a lot of really positive and good guys the right people coming out of prison, and really maximizing that potential, and being rewired, and just creating a whole nother foundation. And like you said, just tapping into the true potential that things they're capable of doing in a positive way, and pushing forward in a positive manner. And I have so many contacts out here of guys that have gotten out and they're doing exactly that. And that's what's encouraging. I mean, I think that's what it's going to take to hopefully change a whole entity. Like Arron was saying, that there's just deep rooted things that have come over time because of the ways of the system. But I think it's going to continue taking people getting out, and with those strong foundations, and doing the right thing, and being rewired in a positive manner, to really push this thing forward, and really create some positive reforms, and overall just make better men and women. I mean, that's what we're going for. We just want better people out here, and in turn that just creates a safer community in there, and safer community out here, and that's exactly what we want.
I love it. And as we get older as adults, you don't learn new stuff too often. Like Arron, I started CrossFit in 2008, and it was such an awakening of like, oh wait, I'm not good at something, because I'd played one sport for X amount of years and I was good. We were a top 20 D1 athlete. I did get checked my freshman year, so humility is always, one rep away. But But, learning and getting back into it, it's whether you're coming out of incarceration or you're just an adult human, I think it's really important for us to get back to learning something new and getting back into the mix of not being the best in the room or so comfortable with our families or our jobs or whatever, and like keeping those edges sharp. So I think almost if you are kind of like ushered coming out of that situation and you have this opportunity, whatever that may be, I think is really incredible. And the support is exponential. Like that process of going through something of like evolution and having like somebody going through it with you is pretty amazing. Did you guys feel evolution within yourselves as like founders and coaches? Like, you're doing this nonprofit obviously for the greater good for other people, but the evolution for you guys personally had to be very noticeable.
Yeah, it has been really amazing, and especially as a cop going into this space to do this work and getting past that cop, criminal, incarcerated person thing. I had early on, I think it was our second or third class at Lyman. I had asked the core group of guys not to say I was a cop, just to not put that barrier in the way. They just knew I was a CrossFit guy, and that was true. I had owned a gym and stuff. But the second or third class, I felt comfortable enough. I'm like, I'm gonna bring down that veil. And at the end of the class, I said, "Hey, did anybody tell you guys that I'm a cop?" And I mean, it was almost a gasp, and not almost. It was like crap kind of thing. And there was two guys that looked angry. One specifically, and I'd been around him a decent amount. Looked really angry. He kind of went off to the side and he sat down. I let him have some space, and I went and sat down by him. I said, "You all right?" He said, "No." He said, "I'm pissed." I said, what are you so pissed about? He said, because I thought it was gonna be that I lied to him or something like that. He's like, well, "I hate cops." He's like, "I hate them all, but I don't hate you." You've come in now several times now and shown that you give an S about us. And so he's like, "So I'm conflicted, and it's easier just to hate all cops than to now what do I do?" Like, "Well, how about this? You judge me on my character, and I'll judge you on your character, and we'll move forward from there." And he's like, "All right," but he's like, "It was easier to just hate everybody." So that thing of seeing past that, and the more exposure I have, being a cop was never a personal thing as far as arresting somebody. I didn't judge them as good or bad. They are having a good or bad day. But there was definitely cop, criminal, thing. And that was still, said I was doing both these things at the same time. And I still went out, I arrested more people, and I put more people in prison. But I could feel better about it because I was also helping those systems connect and that far end thing. But that place of seeing everybody as a person has been strengthened. After I was 20 years in at that point, roughly, I probably had developed a callousness and a us and them mentality. That's real common in law enforcement. It's just a thing you almost have to do. But this helped break that down, and now I walk around a different person for sure from my involvement in this. And we see that with our volunteers that we take inside that come into the spaces we work in. I haven't had a single person come out and say that was bad. 99.9% say this was amazing. How can I help more? It's just breaking down walls in both directions. Guys like Manny touched on, guys feeling cared for inside, and Manny can speak to that more, but I've heard a lot of the stories of people feeling tossed away and, we're rejected by society, and especially tough in the military. Guys there's a restoring honor program out at Lyman that's created by a bunch of incarcerated guys out there. And I was talking to their leadership, and they said it's especially hard for them because, they were military soldiers, right? So they had this persona, and they were protectors of society and all this. And now when they're incarcerated, that's gone kind of doubly. They're not just a regular person walking around with no obligation to society. They took an oath, and then to be incarcerated behind that, and quite often through trauma and stuff. It doesn't excuse it. I know Manny owns his situation, and I haven't met too many veterans that are engaging in these programs that don't own their mistakes. But there's so much of that. There's 200,000 incarcerated veterans in America at any given moment, which is, excuse me, is not okay. It's statistically, it's a problem. It says that there's something going on with their military that is problematic. Some guys are just guys. There's bad cops, there's bad veterans, but mostly good cops, mostly good veterans, and veterans that wind up incarcerated. You're seeing more and more trauma-related issues, and that's where veterans focuses. And what Lions Pride does, and what I've done throughout this thing is, we're in an alliance. We're terming it an alliance with VHV, the Veterans Healing Veterans and Restoring Honor programs, and that I'm pretty good at CrossFit. I'm a pretty good CrossFit coach. So I've been doing it 13 years or whatever. But I don't know anything about trauma, but I know it's a problem. I know it exists, and I know there need to be specialists in that. So with Veterans Healing Veterans, Ron Self, the guy that started it all the way, so Manny brought it into Sterling there, but Ron recognized, yeah, fitness would be a great part for this. It's a thing veterans understand, but he's now a trauma specialist. He's got if you get a chance, you might hearing this looks on his TED Talk he did from Inside San Quentin, which is amazing. But he created that program, and he's a trauma specialist, and he recognized he's not going to try and be a trauma specialist and a fitness guy. So Lions Pride is kind of the fitness arm of Veterans Healing Veterans of their trauma arm. And if I run into a veteran, I'm referring them right over to VHV. We've got Dr. Anjali Nandi's chief probation officer for a county here, and she's a trauma-informed specialist. And she does, for our coaches, she does a class where we talk about trauma so that we can recognize it and deal with the moment of it. But then when we get through that, we're making referrals to other things. I'm not trying to be all these things. We're in alliance with different sobriety groups, because I'm not trying to figure out how to do that work, but I think what we need is an alliance to make a system. They call it the criminal justice system, and it's not. It's a bunch of pillars. Like, there's laws are made by legislators, voted on by the people, enforced by the cops, adjudicated in the courts, and then corrections takes people and does what they do. And those systems aren't working together. My big picture goal is to have CrossFit at the beginning of all that. Somebody's getting arrested and locked up, they're already starting to hear about these programs. If they're not guilty and they get released, great. Maybe they still look into it. But if they do get incarcerated, they've already heard about it, and they know to look for it. And then it just keeps coming at them at every step of the thing. So if by the time they're released, they haven't taken it up, it's because they made a big decision not to, because they saw it 7 or 8 times. And I think if we can tie this thread through this system, and then I'm sure you've seen it, Krista, I know Man and I have, of people getting healthier start making decisions like, oh, what if I didn't drink the night before the workout? And then I can beat Manny in a workout, which ain't going to happen. Manny's way better than me, but I could chase him, So, people start making those decisions. What if I didn't drink? What if I didn't use drugs? What if I got a full night's sleep? What if I ate better? And that just starts to be this whole person thing. And we're just lifting a barbell is what it looks like, but we're hiding a bunch of other stuff in there. And if we can get that into this system, I think people start reaching out within that system to the theology program at the prison, and mean it, not just checking a box like, I found Jesus, can I have probation, but actually find them, or a business degree or whatever. If they got a basic level of fitness in their head, that they're chasing this fitness and wellness, it starts to become this bigger thing. And then I think we can change the game through CrossFit coming into that early. We can be a court diverting. Courts are trying more and more to divert not into jail, but into other programs. Okay, you're going to go to your anger management, you're going to go to CrossFit, you're going to let's make that an option. I think it can and will be a big game-changing thing through these alliances that we can form and make a true system. So
I love it. Well, I have 2 questions. Number one, I 100% agree, and have been in my own experience, one good decision leads to another. So I'm not a very a structured human. I'm more creative, artsy, whatever. So I like to be free, but the second you insert CrossFit or structure, so much has to go in for success, whatever that might be, to come through. So it kind of starts to reshape things unknowingly. And it's really nice because it still feels like it's your choice and your decision without someone coercively pushing you in a direction. So my question would be, do you see yourself approaching the larger business system of this, like whether that's going to, you know, DC and petitioning to get this as more like a law, or, you know, somewhere written in the books where like this is a formal step? Like, do you think you can go to that lengths, or was that something you'd want to be a part of?
Yeah, I think we can definitely get there. I know Veterans Serving Veterans, Ron, the founder of that, he's on some federal task force level
Okay.
stuff. And kind of graciously bringing us along with them in that. But yeah, absolutely. As a goal would be to get into those programs, to get into funding, and we've gotten great response from the corporate world. Noble was a sponsor, gave us 300 something pairs of shoes.
Love it. Yeah.
That have gone into prisons. Ascent Protein gave us a bunch of prize money and prize packages for our competition. So yeah, there's definitely much bigger picture stuff, and legislative things certainly kind of tickling the brain out here. When we can get some data, you know, there's a lot of data on fitness and mental health, and now we just got to bring that data pull the data pool from this population to show what it's doing on recidivism. There's great programs. There's a guy, Ian Acker in Utah, that's done a bunch of great work with this population. So he was incarcerated and has there's music program, there's all this stuff, but part of his thing is fitness. In Ohio, there's Expanding Horizons, which is the juvenile program that uses CrossFit, and they've got the state paying full price for juveniles on probation to go to CrossFit gyms with their PO, with their parole officer, and they're paying for both of them to go, and they've flipped the numbers upside down. They're like a 70+ success rate instead of 70+ failure rate. So more and more data is coming out of fitness and CrossFit specifically, because the community that it builds is different than any other fitness entity that I've ever seen. So as we get more of this data, I think we can then start approaching courts and governors and legislators and say, yeah, let's pour some money into this. Every person you don't incarcerate, you know, if they say it costs $40,000, $50,000 a year to incarcerate somebody, costs what, $1,750 for a basic CrossFit gym membership. If that can help them not go back into prison, you saved, I'm not good at math, was that $38,500? You know, seems like a good deal. So I think it's on the near horizon to be able to kind of to make those things happen.
I love it. It's so huge. My goal, I mean, I've talked about this a lot from day one on Turmeric and Tequila, and a big reason I started it was to disrupt the narrative for everybody, but our young people in particular. And I always say, like, I wish high schools would talk about relationships, finance, nutrition, fitness, like algebra and all this. Like, okay, but there's an app for that. Like, I mean, whatever. If you're doing a specific job for that kind of stuff, fine. But really, like, this really like base life skill situation. And it's phenomenal because not every kid starts from the same starting point. I mean, you know, some young people really start with no skills, injury, trauma, all this stuff. It's really not an equal playing field. But if our systems, wherever they may fall, can provide some of this life skill education and allow them to go through the process versus like this coercive situation of here's what you do, here's how you learn, here's what the goals are, I think it would change everything. So I'm just such an advocate of you guys gracefully disrupting the system. Like, as you said, it's been around for a couple hundred years. Change is slow. But it's pretty powerful if you can change one person from the inside's narrative about cops. I think that one example in itself is worth all of this. Clearly we need, you know, a bigger tidal wave of change, but I really think just that shift in that narrative is really, really huge. And cops don't have a positive PR campaign right now in the world. Like, we're in some really tough times for law enforcement. So that's a hard narrative to change, especially if you've grown up with y'all as the enemy. It's hard to disrupt. So again, it's not even really about disrupting that specifically. It's just the opening up the opportunity that things can be different, things can change, to not judge right away, to provide opportunity. One of my favorite quotes, Michelle Obama says, you know, it's hard to hate anything up close. So when you get in front of someone, you get to know them, even if you don't like who they are, or you've traditionally not accepted them. Once you get to see the human side, you're like, oh, well, maybe I don't hate cops. Maybe I will judge you on my character. And you'd be surprised. I think our kiddos are better about that than adults, because we get set in our ways and we don't like to change. But that's pretty fascinating. Tell me now, like, you talked a little about your goals, but what are some immediate big things? You guys have events coming up, or exciting stuff you want to share that's happening right now?
Getting into that Denver Impact Center was our first step back inside. So that's been great. We definitely have fundraiser goals on the near horizon because there's no equipment in there. We're bringing in what we got from our garages, the main coaches that are going in with us from area gyms here in the Denver metro area. So we'll have some there. Manny's buddy and my friend Lane that just got out is in a transitional housing space down here in the Springs area. They've got a need. Pier 1 downtown has reached out to have a need. So yeah, some fundraiser level things. We'll figure out how that looks. It was real popular with the previous program to do these events inside of prisons. We had people paying a couple $100 to go inside a prison and work out and get a t-shirt. In the transitional space, it's a little different, but we still have access. So we'll see how that looks. Just regular fundraising, buying, selling shirts and that kind of thing will happen as well.
And I know we're trying to coordinate an event hopefully here for Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So definitely we're collaborating with our veterans and the inside community, Lions Pride Fitness, Veterans Healing Veterans. We're going to try and run like almost a hybrid Memorial Day event where we're bringing in veterans. We're telling them about their stories of adversity, their challenges, and how they overcame that. And a lot of times that's through physical activity, CrossFit, working out, and how they've restructured their life and they've bounced back from some of that adversity and speak on those stories of just perseverance and resiliency. And not just veterans, but also guys that are in these reentry spaces, because there are several guys that are doing really, really well out here. And we want to make sure we bring those stories inside and do a workout behind it, make it fun. And so that's what we're hoping to do. I think we're trying to staple down a date working with Arron and some of the facilities right now. I think May 21st. So any military or CrossFitters want to be a part of a really special event, we're going to try and shoot for something like that.
I love it. And if someone wants to get involved on the volunteer side, or maybe, like you said, your friend had a son, like if they want to reach out to you guys to get a loved one involved or anything, or maybe they have programs or sponsors, what would be the best way to contact you guys?
Well, the website is lionspridefitness.org. We're on, I think, all the socials, all the big ones: Facebook, Instagram. I got a TikTok. I don't do anything on there, but too old for TikTok. But we'll find somebody to do it. Yeah.
Outsource the alliances.
Yeah. But Facebook and Instagram are pretty good. But lionspridefitness.org has a contact us page as well. And we do need. That's a big thing that we have a need for is coaches for these spaces. Kevin Ogar, I'm sure you know Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Denver superhero. He is the CrossFit affiliate manager for the entire West, except for half of California or whatever. And we're talking to him about getting the word out to all these things, because we got guys that release to where they release to. If we had 6 gyms in Denver, we'd get a guy released to Pueblo where we still don't have a place for him. So what we want to have is the CrossFit community understanding and knowing this program and the potential and these people that are coming out, and give them a place to come to. Humans are social, or aside from the sociopaths, we all want some community, right? Mm-hmm. So if people coming out of prison, they want community. And if they can continue this CrossFit community or hear about it inside and reach out into it outside, that can replace the one that helped them go inside. Quite often that's a societal thing. Like I said, some kids are starting off, way behind the starting line that I got to start from. Mm-hmm. So they go back into that same community, they're going to have probably the same problems. So we want to have a network of affiliates, CrossFit affiliates and CrossFit coaches that will work in these spaces. Somebody gets released to a new halfway house we're not in. It'd be great if I could reach out to somebody in Oregon and say, hey, have you heard of these programs inside? Would you be willing to start one there? There's a guy or a girl, and would you go in there? So we're trying to build that network. We're also trying to make this a paid thing. There was a summit out in Ohio that I got to be a little part of, and one of the guys there kind of broke down this wall and said, I just want everybody to understand it's okay to make money doing a good thing, because you feel like part of your validity is taken away if you get a paycheck for doing the good thing. It's like, no, people doing good things should be the ones making all the money.
Absolutely.
The middleman just sticking his hand out to take part of your money for not really doing anything shouldn't get anything, but the person actually changing lives, it's okay to make some money. So we're trying to get CrossFit coaches paid, and that'll be a big step too. And I think we can that program, Expanding Horizons in Ohio, it broke down a lot of walls. And Matt Schindeldecker and David Wagner, who start that through CrossFit Crave, they've done a bunch of work and gotten that funding through that government. So I think we can look at doing that here too. $25 an hour for a CrossFit coach that's, you know, coming in to do these. It's not unreasonable, and it allows them to do that good thing, but also, you know, pay their bills and that kind of stuff. So
Absolutely.
we hope to get that funded through grants or, you know, whatever that looks like. So my wife works in some areas that she has access to some information about grants and stuff. So we're gonna track a bunch of that stuff down. But we need this network of people willing to receive these people coming out and help support them. So yeah, we're sticking our tentacles out in a couple directions. Money and people are the big ones. You know, time, talent, and treasures is what we need. And when you ask, it's amazing in the CrossFit community, especially how much of each of those you get from people.
Oh, for sure.
When they see the value and they see the lives being changed.
That's amazing. Well, if you're a CrossFit gym and you're listening, please reach out. It is a very tight family. We've been in it for a very long time, the three of us, but it's amazing to see how many people stay in it. You know, it's 12x amount of years, and it's a lot of the same people doing a lot of the same things. It's really, really good humans that are mission driven, they're purposeful, and they're, you know, trying to walk in alignment with whatever that purpose is and being impactful. I completely advocate and echo your statements around getting paid. I know some of the biggest charities in the world, there is some shade around 501c3s, let's be real, where some of this money goes, but the good ones doing it right, paying for great people. If you can pay someone $100,000 a year and they're bringing in $1 million, it's the way to go. So there is some disruption in our own minds about nonprofits and ones that are really doing it correctly. But yeah, you want to get good people doing the right thing. So I hope that the funds come that way. And I hope on the flip side, the more 10,000 foot view of this is showing up for humanity in the right way and staying open-minded. But also if you've got like a dream or a pull towards something like these guys, you know, like Arron, you know, he kind of was asking, what do I do next? It didn't have a hard plan, but just pulled and just let one step kind of lead to the next and let it unfold. I really hope especially our young people, but all people can hear, you know, you don't have to have it figured out. Just listen to your gut, go in that direction and trust universe, God, Madonna, as I say on Turmeric and Tequila, that as you take that step, the stone will be there. And I just think we get so locked into like, well, what's the plan and what's the funding? Yes, you need to have some of those things, but sometimes you just got to put one foot in front of the other and trust. And I mean, this is the perfect example of that. You're kind of following your gut and going with it and look at this magic that's unfolded without this even being in the plan or on the books or anything. I don't know. I just give you guys a round of applause and pat on the back because it's so amazing. But I think it's working and it's happening and it's thriving because it's real and it is necessary and it's right on time. Like this is what our world really needs. I won't drop a bunch of cheesy cliches on you, but it really does matter. And I think just disrupting these big systems in the right way is pretty magical. And if we can all get ripped doing it, like that's pretty awesome. So, do you guys have anything final notes? It can be about the business or the fitness or the mission that you want to leave the crew with?
I wanted to point at over at Veterans Healing Veterans also. So I love that group and those guys and their mission. So that's veteranshealingveterans.com is their website. So reach out to them so that we're their fitness arm. But if you're a veteran or know a veteran, and I mean, we all know some, and you have any kind of issue that this would help, reach out there at Manny if you want to talk to that some more. But I didn't want to go past giving out that website. And then Restoring Honor is the program in Lyman. They're worthy of a look as well. They've got a Facebook group. I think they just got their website up. But Restoring Honor is that one.
Well, I'll link all these, lionspridefitness.org. We'll of course link them on there, but yeah, definitely check them out. Manny, did you have anything to leave us with?
I really appreciate time, Kristen. I appreciate everybody that's listening. I think just like you said, just a call to the community and really building that network, because that's what we hear a lot of, especially in this space, is that these kind of environments and healthy organic environments are created in a strong way through CrossFit, especially on the inside. And we want to make sure that we're creating those same environments out here and creating a seamless transition so we can continue pumping out just healthy human beings. And that's what we want.
Amen. Well, I appreciate you guys' time and energy. I love to see not only this happening, but kind of see it grow. And I think it's so cool that, you know, fitness has led to us to being better humans and then in turn impacting and inspiring other humans to level up. It's a pretty magical thing. And we just showed up to do fake pull-ups. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm just kidding. I can only diss CrossFit because I've done it so long and I love it so much. But I appreciate you guys' time and energy. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, I can't wait to see how this grows. Maybe in a year we should check back in and talk about the research that's come out, the milestones you've made, the DC situations you guys have disrupted, and just check in and see how the progress has happened.
Yeah,
man.
love it. Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Put it on the calendar.
I love it. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.